Hey everybody, this is George's cousin Ed. We're coming here today on E Squad 540's channel, and we're going to be talking about two really nice, inexpensive knives, not cheap, inexpensive, that you might want to consider owning for like some everyday task. Now, these are both knives I have here, cost under $20 and very functional. We're going to go with the oldest one first. This is by the Portuguese company MAM, which I usually end up calling MAM. They've been around since 1870. They produce a massive, wide variety of different knives. Now, I'm going to talk about the MAM knife tonight and the one from Opinel in France, but I'm just going to go over a lot of the basics, because if I start talking about Opinels and knives like this, we could be here for hours. So, what we're talking about really today are like what they call peasant knives, farming knives, or just basically gentleman's knives, a little knife you carry in your pocket. It's easy opening, does your everyday task. Not necessarily a heavy duty knife, but just a knife you can have with you a lot. So I've been carrying one of these MAMs for a while. This particular one is a stainless steel blade. They also make them in carbon steel, which we'll get into that in a moment. A metal ferrule here. These are beechwood handles emblazoned with their logo. I paid, I guess we could talk about the price of knives since they're not guns on here. I paid under $10 for this knife. And this is an exceptionally nice knife. Very clean, very functional. It does not have a locking or liner lock or anything to hold it. But if you place your thumb here to the side like this, that's no problem. I've used this in just jobs, opening cardboard, slashing plastic straps, things of that nature. It's really a nice knife. And again, inexpensive. Now, I'm going to admit, I don't know as much about the MAM company. I've just started studying them, but they have a pretty fascinating, different amount of things. And they have some really nice stuff. I know that they make this particular knife with a liner lock, which just flicks in place, holds the blade nice and secure. I am definitely going to have one of those for myself because I really like these. Let me put this aside. Now, Opinel, the French company, I know a little more about. This is my own particular Opinel. This is a number 6. And I've carried this knife for well over 20 years. In fact, if you look at it here, you can tell, yeah, I've been carrying that knife. In fact, I even cleaned the tarnish off of it lately. I've almost wiped out the lettering on the wood. So these knives came about around 1890. In fact, the gentleman who designed this knife at the time was only 18 years old, working for his father, and, well, he got it right the first time. This is considered one of the best little inexpensive folders in the world. Right now, Opinel produces over 15 million products a year. So I'd say they pretty well have it right. The initial line of these knives had 12, now 13, different knives. And this particular knife is, as I said, a number 6. This is a carbon steel blade. I kind of like carbon over stainless in a knife like this because it seems to sharpen a little better. Whereas this is a sheep's foot knife. This is more of a drop point knife. I try not to really use the point on them, but they are right there, about sharp as a needle, but they are a little thin. So if you really got in there digging on something or whatever, you could break it. These also are a beechwood handle, very durable. As I said, I've had this knife over 20 years. This knife practically lives in my pocket, and it is an extremely sharp, very nice knife. The one thing I also mentioned, since I know George, of course, does reenacting, whatever, if you're a World War I, World War II reenactor, one of these is a really nice piece to have. They are period correct for Europe. So if you're doing World War I, World War II reenacting, definitely would have one of these. So as I said, incredibly nice knives, very durable, very cheap. This one has, of course, a ring lock on here. They call it a Vero block, that this does not. As I said, very nice. You'll notice what I did earlier to open this, because these are hard to open at times. That's in there pretty tight. By using the point here of the wood and tapping it, I can just bring it out, lock it into place. This is a very strong lock, because as I told George earlier, you can't push steel through steel. It's really hard to do. In closing, I'm going to tell you a little trick how you could possibly make some money, because I find it interesting. Whenever I go to a gun show, I always look at old Opinel knives, because the number 1 Opinel and the number 11 Opinel were both discontinued in the 1930s. They are extremely rare. I have never even seen, I've seen a number 1. I have never even seen a photograph of a number 11. And they discontinued the number 11 because these usually go by size. And of course, 11 be between 10 and 12. It really wasn't different enough to maintain production. But number 11s are extremely rare. Now, how do you know if it's a number 11? Well, your number is emblazoned right here on the Vero block. This, of course, being a number 6. So if you go to a show, a gun show or whatever, an older one is probably going to have a darker handle than this. And I would look at the Opinels, and if you see one of these with a 1, and they're extremely small knives, but if you see a number 1 or a number 11, you should buy it like immediately. I mean, take it and put it in your pocket and hand the guy the money. And just congratulate yourself, because you bought a very expensive and very rare knife for probably next to nothing. Because, again, they're kind of like Enfield rifles, except to the people who know what they're looking at. They all kind of look the same. Yeah, but some are more valuable than others. So anyway, I hope y'all have a good day. Hope you like this little presentation of these little inexpensive knives. You know, if you ask me which one's better, I'd say neither. They're cheap enough. You can buy one of each. Buy one of each, test them yourself, see what you think about them. Anyway, God bless. Have a good day. Stay safe. Okay, so now we're kind of back for a part 2 where we were talking about the MAM knives from Portugal and the Opinel knives from France. Well, I was telling George, hey, let me show you something a lot of people don't know about, that Cold Steel in the 90s produced an Opinel style knife. Actually, they produced 3 different types of Opinel knives, and a large and a medium and a small, which I don't have, but let's take a look at a couple of them. And you already see the Opinel type pattern here. This one has a carbon V steel blade. Here's your lock. The locks on these are pretty tight because they haven't really ever been used. They had a rubber handle. It's an extremely nice knife, and they weren't terribly expensive then. Of course, that was 30 years ago. They made these during the mid-90s. And now, you know what, if you can find one, even in a broke up box like this, and you get it for under 50 bucks, I say buy it, because it'll be worth it's easily worth 100. So this is the medium. Here's the large. The large is about the size of an Opinel number 12. And this is a high carbon, no, excuse me, that's a carbon V as well, with lock. You know, I've kept these in a box because I've got these after I heard they quit making them, and I thought, you know, I really don't want to scar them up because they might be valuable someday, and well, they kind of are now, but I really wish they would bring these knives back. Even though they're more expensive than a standard Opinel knife, the quality is excellent. They do cut good, what limited amount of cutting I've ever done with one. So I thought you'd just like to see these, so I do like my Opinels. As I said, keep looking for a number 11 Opinel. If you find it, you know, you've really got something. Anyway, God bless. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.
Well, that video ain't nearly long enough, so you get your stuff out of the way and I'll do something.
All right.
That was 2 minutes, 40 seconds. That's not even long enough to publish. Here, let's try something else. So anyway, the big heavy box that I keep moving around the gun room is full of pocket knives that I've been collecting for years. There's another box just like this somewhere. I can't find it. Couldn't even find it. So I always liked the Uncle Henry's. That's something I always liked, was Uncle Henry, an old timer, and so forth. And there was a time when you could buy these things at the pawn shop for $10, and now you can't even find one for sale. And this is the cheap version of the bear paw that doesn't have the brass bolster in the back of it. It's a standard lock back, and I've never seen one of these things busted or pulled apart, and they're pretty, even though they were the economy price version, they were a pretty good knife. Oh, I got two of them. I may have another one down there in that box. These guys, you can buy these guys relatively cheap. The Case 400 or the Gerber 400 Light, also known as the LT. Pretty cool knife. I've had this in about 30 years. Talking about cold steel. Now this is a knife I carry a lot. This is a knife that I carry as. Would you get out of the light? Move the light. Oh, there. That's much better. My cinematographer there is helping me out today. The cold steel counterpoint. Now I carry this guy as a backup defensive weapon to concealed carry, or backup defensive weapon to whatever gun I'm carrying that day, because it's a combat style knife, a good lockback, clip point. It's kind of dirty right now because we was out the other day playing mumbly peg with it. Yes, I'm 65 years old. I'm still playing kids games. But it's a positive lockback. And you know, shooting ain't always the answer. So I like this. Another one I like a lot is the folding Bushman. A little pocket lint there. The folding Bushman is a very positive locking mechanism. It has a bar that runs up through here that's square on the end that captures, the blade is forced to capture the bar between the back strap of the knife, which is solid. This is just bent over. It's what we call a penny pattern knife, but this is the high end of it. And it's hard to get broke. Another cool thing, we found this. Now Ed bought this for my birthday last year. This is the Ranch Boss, which is basically the same pattern as an old Uncle Henry that I probably don't have in this box. Oh, there it is. This is the same as the Old Timer, you know, which this has been out of production for years. I always liked this knife and I always carried it a lot when I was working, because it's a liner lock and you can get it open pretty easy. And I had to flick it on it for years, but it finally broke. Didn't outlast the knife. We were up at a big box store and they had these hanging on the shelf. Had one of them left, and Ed picked it up and gave it to me for my birthday. I found that, you know, having used this knife a lot, I found that this is a pretty good knife. It's actually a little bit better than the Old Timer because the Old Timer has brass, which is a soft metal, whereas the liner and frame of the knife on this one is stainless. Probably a little tougher than the original Old Timer. And has a good old liner lock in it. Can't beat it with a stick. Along this line, I always enjoyed several of these. Here's an Imperial. I always, when I was a teenager, I spent a lot of time in the woods. And I always liked the big double-bladed knife. So you had the hunt knife, skinning knife, you know, general purpose knife, and then the game cleaning knife, both in one package. And if you broke a blade, you still had a knife. That, I found that to be to my advantage. And then they come along with these things. These are made in Pakistan, but they're made with Solgen product steel. They would manufacture the blank parts and they'd send them overseas to get them manufactured. And they were about 10 bucks. You know, I've had this one for a long time and I've used it a lot. Along that same venue, I always enjoyed this, the Little Trapper. I just like the design. You've got a pretty substantial blade, and then you've got a pretty substantial blade for a backup. Oh, what? I found this laying on the side of the road. I was in traffic waiting to go to a reenactment across the bridge over when it was just the Kennedy Bridge in Louisville. They didn't have the new one. I was backed up in traffic one day, and this guy was laying on the side of the road, open. I just got out and picked it up. I didn't have any blood or anything on it, you know, but there it was, just no cheap Pakistani switchblade laying there open. TL29s. I love TL29s. Electrician's knives. They're real handy. They're just real handy to have. I mean, they got a good pocket knife blade on them with a lock blade, you know, and a screwdriver and a wire stripper, and it's just a good design to have. I'm going through this box trying to find interesting stuff. Hawkbill. I have yet to find a serviceable use for a hawkbill other than cutting somebody's belly open. Pick this out of there. This is a pocket knife that come with wolf dip. Back in the day when they could give you premiums if you buy the tobacco product. This guy, I have no idea what the manufacturer's. There was probably a manufacturer's mark on it someplace here, but it's long since gone. The last time me and my dad were fishing, I found this laying on a boat ramp in about 3 inches of water. And it says stainless steel 440 on it, but it has no other manufacturer's marking on it whatsoever. And it's a real good knife, real good, high quality, you know, aluminum handles, stainless steel lining, liner lock, flipper on both sides. You know, pretty good knife to carry as a defensive knife if you had to. That's a Finn Wolf you dug that out of there. Here's a Finn Wolf, another cold steel product that I like a lot. I like the way it's made. It's got a Puko style blade on it. I just wish they made it in about 3-inch longer version. That'd be pretty cool. I think you could buy these guys for about 20 bucks, you know, and then all of a sudden they disappeared off the market. Really good knife. Another. Yeah, I got crazy about the electrician knives. Oh, there's another one. You never know. Here's a pretty cool knife. It's called a leaf knife. This thing's made by Spyderco, and it's a good backup pocket knife to carry around with you. It's got that little bird hook blade on the end, bird bill blade on the end of it. I haven't used this knife very much because it came to me in an inheritance. Somebody passed away that I liked a lot. I just, you know, I haven't used it, but it's pretty cool. It's big enough and it's got enough blade to it you can really put some damage on somebody with it if you had to. Well, that's about the size of it. The rest of the stuff in here is kind of junky. Like that. Here's an interesting knife. It's a case, a little single blade deal. I'm not going to tell you where I got this. It's a pretty cool knife. All right then, that's about enough of me rambling on. Oh, There's another electrician's knife. You can see it's probably a sickness. Well, all right then, there's a little look at some of my knife collection, and like I say, share, commentate, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all when we see you. Push the button. Push it again.